and Environment Committee. It is approximately 9:17 a.m. I'm joined by Council President Eric Garcetti, Councilwoman Wendy Gruhl, so we have a majority of the committee here. And let's go through the first item.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Rafael Breda with the CLA's office. Item 1 is the Department of Water and Power report requesting approval of a draft ordinance to amend the city's emergency water conservation plan. We have staff from DWP, General Manager, as well as the CAO's office.
Okay, why doesn't everybody come forward so we can get started?
Madam Chair, we also recommend that you consider this item in conjunction with item 2 and 3, since they're motions that relate to item number 1.
Item 1, 2, and 3. All right, so then just for public purposes, we are taking items 1, 2, and 3 together.
Correct.
Do we have any cards on that? Yeah. Do I have any cards on that?
Oh, no.
Do I have any cards? Speaker cards?
Speaker card?
And speaker cards.
Okay, great. All right, please proceed.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, good morning. My name is David Nahai. I'm privileged to serve as the General Manager of the Department of Water and Power. I have with me...
To serve, I like that.
Just to serve. I have with me here today Mr. Tom Erb to my left, from our water system. To my right, Ms. Julie Comboy-Riley of the City Attorney's Office. And we're here to ask you to approve and for the consideration of the Council an amendment to Chapter 12 of the Water Conservation Ordinance of the City of Los Angeles. I believe that the materials have already been provided to you, and I won't take a great deal of time to go through them. Suffice it to say that we're all aware of the water situation that we face here in Los Angeles, our heavy dependence on imported water, and the fact that all of our external water sources are under great pressure these days. Accordingly, the ordinance before you today contains an expansion of prohibited uses that are already on the books, dating back to the drought of 1990, and the ordinance before you today also updates the fines that would be levied against those who are really repeated violators of the provisions of the ordinance. The ordinance, as it stands, does not really impose onerous or draconian restrictions. These really are common sense issues that we would all consider really within the realm of common sense as far as water conservation is concerned. For instance, the ordinance asks people not to hose down their driveways, not to wash their cars in their driveways without using a nozzle that has a shut-off valve. It asks them to make sure that if they have decorative fountains, that those fountains use recirculated water, that if they have known leaks, that they repair the leaks. It asks restaurants not to voluntarily serve water to customers unless that water is specifically requested. It asks customers not to irrigate their lawns during periods of rain, and a number of other requirements of that nature. Which
Can you just enumerate for us what the key prohibited water uses under the new proposed plan would be? Just give us a list.
Sure. There are altogether 14 of them. Many of them appeared in the previous legislation, but I can just run through all 14 very quickly.
It's good for the public to hear it.
Sure. No problem at all. As I said, the first is do not hose down paved surfaces. This is the driveway example that we all know about. Ensure that decorative fountains use only recirculated water. Restaurants and hotels should not serve drinking water to any customer unless that water is expressly requested. Known leaks must be fixed by customers. Vehicles should not be washed in driveways unless the hose that is being used has a self-closing shutoff valve. Irrigation of lawns should not occur during periods of rain.
So that means like one of those hoses with a handle is okay for your car?
That's right, so long as it can...
Clear.
Yeah. Times of irrigation. No irrigation between the hours of 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. Sprinklers should have timing limits of 15 minutes per watering day per station for gear-driven sprinklers or stream rotator type sprinklers, and not more than 10 minutes for other kinds of sprinklers. Irrigation of lawns, landscape, other areas should not be done in a manner as to allow continuous water to run off the lawn into the street. Single-pass cooling systems should not be installed in buildings requesting new water systems. There will be no installation of non-circulating systems in new conveyor car wash or new commercial laundry systems. So we're talking about recirculating systems there. In hotels and motels, notices must be displayed reminding guests that if their towels don't need to be washed, that they shouldn't put them in the tub or on the floor to be picked up. With respect to large landscape areas, such as parks and open fields, irrigation systems should have rain sensors that shut off during periods of rain. And finally, number 14 is not really a restriction, but it's a proviso that states that these prohibited uses don't apply to grey water. And there is another section later on in the ordinance that says that the prohibitions don't apply to recycled water use either. So that's the whole list of the prohibited uses.
Now, have you been able to quantify how much water we're going to save by imposing these limitations citywide?
I don't think we've quantified it. I will say this, however, that in the past 25 years, we've grown in this city by 1 million people, and yet our water usage has grown negligibly, if at all. That's partly because of
projecting forward, you need to be able to come up with some formulations so that you can demonstrate how much water you've saved, so we know whether this plan has been a success or basically a lost leader. Now, a quick question for me that pertains to my district on the issue of washing human waste off the sidewalks over in Central City East or the Skid Row area. How would your plan deal with this issue?
There is an exemption with respect to washing that needs to be done in the interests of health and safety, I can't put my finger on it right now, but
All right, but you're aware that there is an exemption in there. So for those who have tickets, they can.
Julie Riley from the City Attorney's Office. Section 121.10 addresses the fact that public health and safety shall not be affected by this ordinance.
All right, thank you. We have Mr. Cardenas here, too. Who's going?
No, she didn't.
Okay, so we have Mr. Cardenas and Mr. Garcetti here. For the record, if either of you had any questions, before we finish these 3 items, I want to make some amending language.
Okay, yeah, I do.
Mr. Cardenas.
It sounds as though the recommendations on this potential motion is that we move away from it being a legislative process and move toward an administrative process. How does that follow the spirit of the charter and the Department of Water and Power, which is a proprietary department? How does moving away from a legislative process to an administrative process, how does that make sense?
I understand. It is not the intent of the department to remove any supervisory or oversight role that the council has in this matter.
Well, the mayor as well, because...
and the mayor.
For example, under the current process, apparently the mayor would actually declare that we need to implement one of our conservation phases, and then it would be with the concurrence of the council and the DWP board. but it appears that the recommendation here is that we move toward DWP action and not requiring initial action by the mayor or concurrence of the council.
Yeah, I think the question becomes which comes first. Is the process of moving to a different conservation phase, is that going to be initiated by the mayor, adopted by the council, and then implemented by DWP, or would it be more in the interest of the city for the DWP Board of Commissioners, which is living with this issue of our water situation every day, for the DWP Commission to initiate that situation? I think there have been a lot of discussions with the CLA office. Our proposal would be that the DWP Board of Commissioners be allowed to move to the next phase, the next conservation phase, and have the mayor and the city council take a period of time to see whether they wish to hear that, overturn it, do something else with it.
For purposes of clarity, Mr. Cardenas, and we're joined by Mr. Alarcon, I'm going to make a request and a motion today to continue the matter for 2 weeks, to ask the city attorney to prepare amendment language to the proposed draft ordinance that should maintain the mayor and council authority to declare and terminate water conservation efforts and initiate conservation phases as necessary. And I guess in short, to allow the DWP to act quickly, but to give the council 45 days to rescind or reject if we don't agree with the action, if that, suits what you're trying to convey right now.
So basically, what we have right now is mayor, council, then DWP pulls together what the implementation. And what this proposal here today is to change that to DWP takes action, and then based on what the chairwoman just said, then the council and the mayor would subsequently either concur or move to consider the details in part or in whole and overturn in part or in whole the actions of the Department of Water and Power.
Yes, sir. What we would like to see happen is to have the DWP Commission declare a phase and then provide a period of time for the mayor and the city council to hear that, rescind it, overturn it, if that is justified. Otherwise, the action of the DWP commissioners should stand. I think this provides the necessary oversight. It doesn't at all sidestep the very important legislative process that's been in effect here, but it also provides the DWP with the ability to act swiftly in the event conditions warrant.
The thing is, there's two ways of looking at it, and fortunately for us, we have a Department of Water and Power that has a lot of expertise. We're not a small department that has 50 bodies or even 100 bodies, like maybe some other jurisdictions might have. This is a body that has thousands of employees, thousands of expertise, and hundreds of managers in various capacities and expertise and experience to go ahead and make that kind of call on a technical basis. So as far as I'm concerned, as a legislator, I don't mind the Department of Water and Power taking the initial action, but what I wouldn't want to see is that the elected officials in the city not have a part in that process, because there's two ways of looking at it. One, we're not technical experts, we're legislators, and therefore we should leave it up to the Department of Water and Power. Yet at the same time, this is such a broad policy matter at the end of the day that would affect both business, residents, taxpayers, employees, employers, et cetera, that I think it would be wrong for the elected officials in the city to be given a pass and to not have to be involved and not have a say-so and not be put on the spot and have to assist in answering why are we doing this. So I agree with what the chairwoman's motion as she outlined, because for better or for worse, we are not experts in this area, but at the same time, we're the ones that were elected to answer to the public, both the people who elect us and also the people who depend on us to make good policy and to make sure that good policy's in place. So I think that the way the report is written is lacking, and I think a motion, as was described by the chairwoman, is appropriate.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Mr. Garcetti?
I support you, and I know Ms. Rule, before she left, wanted to say that she supported that.
Mr. Heller?
I concur, but I want to just express, having participated in the emergency management organization for the City of Los Angeles, I absolutely believe that the declaration of emergency is an executive power that has to remain so. Otherwise, we're going to have people requesting that the fire department declare emergencies during earthquakes, the police department declare emergencies during riots. There's a reason why we have an elected mayor and elected council, and so.
But this would maintain the mayor and the council's authority to...
No, that's why I'm saying I support the chair's direction, and I just think DWP ought to move away from that suggestion. There's no these kinds of events and circumstances involve multiple departments, and that's why we have an executive and council to make that decision. But the other reason we do it is so that we can remain informed, so that we get the information that's necessary, so that we can make decisions that have other ramifications. A department in a declared emergency can swallow up all the resources of a government. We have to take into consideration the budget implications of those kinds of declarations as well, and that's why that power is in the hands of the executive. And if the voters don't like what we do, we're held responsible.
Right, absolutely. Mr. Cardenas?
Yeah, on your motion for the city attorney, as you outlined, Madam Chairwoman, does that include if somebody is appealing and the Department of Water and Power, for example, denies their appeal, can that appeal come to the council, or is that component just relies solely with the Department of Water and Power?
If you want to add that language in, I wouldn't be opposed to that.
The board that's put in place for citizens appealing right now is mayor and council. There's nobody appointed to those positions, but I know the last drought, the board received over 100,000 complaints. So just as we look at some of the appeals and the volume that could potentially come through council, we should have a mechanism in which we can, if we want to do it.
Exactly.
But just be aware that, that means our offices could each receive, during a drought, 5, 7, 8,000 calls for appeals per council district.
Well, absolutely, but then again, I think it's our responsibility to make sure that we don't close the public to the opportunity to appeal to their elected body in this particular case. And we all know some of these complaints may be involving, $50, which to somebody is a lot. Or it might be one of our biggest customer who's saying, you know what, we agree to disagree. We're talking about several $100,000 on this appeal. The Department of Water and Power is splitting the baby and saying, okay, we agree with $80,000 of your appeal, but the rest, I'm sorry. Again, we're the ones that should have some involvement in that if somebody feels strongly enough that they need to go ahead and find out a more permanent remedy. There are no elected officials at the Department of Water and Power.
Why don't you add on your language? So
To give us options, maybe.
yeah, to give
We
us
can
the
review
options.
them.
So the recommendation or the motion will be recommend that we continue the matter for 2 weeks to have the city attorney prepare amendment language to the proposed draft ordinance that maintains mayor and council authority to declare and terminate water conservation efforts and initiate conservation phases as necessary, or to allow the board to act quickly to give council 45 days to rescind if they don't agree on the action, and then Mr. Cardenas will add his language in.
And that same process be allowed on the appeals process as well, that there be an avenue in which they can actually appeal. And when I say can, that means that if the council chooses to take it up, then the council will. If the council chooses not to take it up, then it will remain final. So that opportunity be available.
As pursuant to such mechanisms as the council may design.
Exactly.
Okay. Madam Chair, I'm told by the City Attorney's Office that this amendment, because of the nature of the amendment, wouldn't necessitate the whole matter to be returned to the Board of Water and Power Commissioners. So
We
if
can
it
have
is...
it come back to this committee in 2 weeks. so we can just review the language as a committee.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, just advising me that we could do it here and now, if that's your wish, or we could come back in 2 weeks. But we could do it right now. These are not complicated amendments, and we don't.
Well, do you want to draft it and let us have a look at the draft before you do that? Before we do that?
Yeah, sure.
Just form as to form and substance?
Yes.
Okay, I mean, it's just 2 weeks. Not a big deal. Either
Or
way.
you can have a special meeting before council next week.
Why don't you let us know as soon as you're done with it, and then we can have a quick meeting before
Yeah,
council?
you can call special, right?
Right,
Okay.
right. Okay, if you get it done before 2 weeks, then we can have what is it, 72 hours notice?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
We're going to sit and get it done right now. So.
Well, I'd like to look at it. I don't
No,
want
of
to
course,
rush through
of
this.
course.
Okay, great. All right, thank you. Before we adjourn,
clarification.
Madam Chair, you'll also like to continue items 2 and 3 until you get the language in on this
Yeah,
as it relates
that's
to.
correct.
Okay.
we have a card from Joyce Dillard. If one of you would be kind enough, and on Joyce Dillard, we'll be speaking on items 1 and 3, and we tied 1, 2, and 3 together.
First off, I was concerned about due process, and I think you're taking care of it. But there are other elements of an ordinance and prohibited uses of water and water in general that the city's really not addressing. You had your housing element comments due yesterday on the EIR, and I know the state, I talked to the state also, and they had issued a letter concerned about the water usage. You're not really integrating water with the planning department. They're void from this. And any kind of ordinance you may do for the public really isn't going to reach it. Part of the problem with water is education. It's in the billions of dollars. I mean, I sit through these IRWIMP meetings, I sit through these PROPO meetings. You have no consolidation. You don't do the annual reporting required by the state on infrastructure. You're failing in a lot of ways that will help the public understand what this is about. I'll tell you, they're not stopping watering their sidewalks. None of that's happening. You turn someone in, what gang member's going to go after the one that turned him in? This in my area, not all areas of town. So I don't see it as a win situation based on the need. What you have to worry about is the Northern California getting contaminated in their water, and that may happen. And the governor is worried about that. And those of us that had sat in meetings over the years on it know it's a possibility, and I mean saltwater contamination, and you don't get it down here. So all the increase of rates, all of that doesn't mean anything. Long Beach is trying to work with it, and they're trying to work with it in gateway cities, but at the leadership committee of the Greater LA Integrated Regional Water Management Plan, there's infighting because they don't understand what they're doing. They don't understand their municipalities who have more power than that regional group in essence. As you know, you're a local government. You know you have the power. But you're going to have to start making demands because you are elected, so we held you accountable into incorporating the realistic aspects of growth with the city, with infrastructure, with water needs. And you've done nothing on emergency preparedness. USC issued a report, Tomas Rivera Institute, about the immigrant not having the languages available. Well, it's deeper than that because I deal with it in my area. They haven't even touched what needs to be done. I know there was a newspaper article, which I haven't read, but I know there's a problem. So you've got to get a handle on this growth aspect because that's what you deal with in council a lot, but you don't hold the planning department accountable. You want to already in a hearing for this housing element, those things, and I wrote over 30, 35 pages, 32 pages on this, need to be answered first. And those things need to be reconciled first. Otherwise, increasing costs, expecting to copy another city, waste of time and energy.
Thank you very much. That's Joyce Dillard on items 1 and 3. All right, we didn't vote on that yet, did we?
Well, you did. You continued the 3
Okay, that's right.
with
Okay, fine.
additional
Okay.
language. So you took an
All
action
right,
on
then
those.
we'll go to item 4 next.
Item number 4, CLA and CAO report on issues related to collection of unpaid extra capacity container fees. We have staff from both offices.
Yeah. They want to slow it down. Why?
Oh, yeah.
Stuff they should have available at their fingertips.
Morning, Madam Chair and committee members. Charles Modick from the Office of the CLA. We are reporting to you in response to a request made in the city's 2008-2009 budget hearings by Councilmember Alarcon to investigate potential revenue to be generated by collecting extra capacity fees on all extra capacity trash bins and to look at potential increases in that fee. Our report is addressing the first part of Councilmember Alarcon's request, which is to charge the extra capacity fees on all currently unregistered bins. The City Bureau of Sanitation currently provides extra capacity services to residents who request them. They provide 30-gallon units of extra capacity refuse disposal that cost $5 a month for general refuse, which is your black bin refuse, and $2.50 a month for green waste, which you put in your green bin. Our report identifies roughly 77,000 unregistered bins that are not currently paying extra capacity fees, and these bins represent in total around 160,000 units of extra capacity that could be charged for. Now, altogether, if we were to collect extra capacity fees on all those units, we could see a revenue stream to the city of $8.5 million annually. However, it is very likely that when we notify residents that their extra capacity bins will be subject to extra capacity fees, they may elect to return their bins and not pay the current fees that are on the books.
What's the strategy you have in place to capture the unregistered extra capacity users?
Jorge Santiesteban, Bureau of Sanitation. The Bureau of Sanitation recently mailed out a letter to all the unregistered extra capacity users, and we are in the process of receiving the request from those residents whether they like to pay the extra capacity, they like to return
Do
it.
you have a rate of response,
Yes, we do.
percentage-wise?
Yes, we do.
As to who's actually answering?
Yes, we have.
When did the letters go out?
The letter went out mid-June, and we started receiving inquiries about the notices June 18, June 19th. And
Excuse me, what format did they go out in? Was it a singular letter, or was it attached to something?
it was a singular letter, double-sided. I have a copy here I can certainly provide you.
It's a card, right?
We have two ways of doing it. We mailed out the letter, and as I mentioned, I can provide you with a copy of the letter in both English and Spanish, double-sided. And as we are out on the field and we find extra capacity containers that are not registered, we put a card like Councilmember Alarcon mentions, and we notified the resident that that is an unregistered extra capacity. So we, as you
So
can
how many
imagine,
letters did you send out, and what's your rate of return?
we have sent approximately 83,000 letters
Okay.
to the residents as of today. And you can imagine that when the letters first came out, it was a tidal wave. We had a wave,
Sure.
which we're still kind of like, we are over the crest, but we continue to receive letters.
So what's your percentage response?
Right now, we have, as of last Friday, about 9% rate of return.
And that's 80,000?
From 80,000, that's around 7,000, high 6,000, 6,800.
But when they contact us back,
Yes.
that doesn't mean they're all saying the same thing.
No, when they contact us back, I can provide you the current, and these are preliminary numbers of the data that we have analyzed, and I can certainly provide you. Would you be interested in knowing that?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Out of the ones that we have received, and again, these are preliminary because every day we get more, residents saying that they will pay, it's 6.2%. Residents that say that they will return the container, it's about 26%. Residents that are disputing the information, it's about 60%. And residents that, when they call, will look at the database and we verify that the container has been already retrieved by sanitation, is about 4.6%, 5%. So that is the current rate, and those numbers change every day, and there's some data that we still have that has not been analyzed, but that is the breakdown.
And the remaining 9%?
I'm sorry?
And the remaining 9% are folks that are going to pay the extra?
that should come to 100%.
So you had 26, 60, and 5?
63, I'm sorry, 63.5, and I kind of rounded
So
up.
0% said, we want to keep it and we're going to pay extra?
6.2%.
List of the ones responding.
Right.
Those are of the ones,
I know, that,
There's
those are the ones, but
91% that haven't said anything.
exactly, right.
That means if they don't say anything, then we start to charge them?
If they don't say anything, we will send out another letter and give them a date where we will say you have not responded, we will then start charging you.
And when is that?
Well, we are waiting on,
Send another letter. Why didn't you put that in the first one?
the reason that we have, some of the comments that we are receiving from our residents is that they will not, they want to return the container, is that they are aware that there is a potential rate increase, and they're saying that we cannot afford it. So we want to give them a drop dead date.
But the council instructed you to start collecting.
We are,
Where do you get off sending a second letter?
we want to give them,
Testimony before the council, you indicated that you would send one letter and then start charging in about 2 months.
we are doing that.
No, it's already past 2 months. No. It is.
the fiscal
The
year.
discussion occurred in May. The letter went out in June.
And we are currently charging on the responses that we have received, and we will continue to pretty much charge on all,
Copies of the original letter?
yes, absolutely.
See one?
I don't have it in my notes. HDM.
And those are copies for each of the council members.
Do you want to go back to your second question about the second letter? Okay.
I don't understand what in the first letter you have to repeat.
Well, we have, we really, a lot of complaints may arise by residents saying, we do not know that you were going to charge
You've
us.
already sent the letter, and you're getting calls.
We're getting calls, and we still have not finished pretty much with all the calls that we have received. We continue to get
But
calls.
this letter basically tells them that you are entitled to charge them.
Yes.
So why don't you charge them if they don't call?
Well, we understand that, but the letter, we're still receiving inquiries from that letter as far as residents wanting to take their containers back, wanting us to take the containers back.
Madam Chairwoman,
Yes.
see, the question to the department, or if there's an attorney in the room,
Is there an attorney in the room?
that can explain to us why we don't have the authority to start collecting if our records show that we're providing that service. I could see if somebody were to tell the city council, based on your directive, there's precedent set by the courts that in situations like this, where the government was providing service and the government was negligent in collecting on that service, the fees for that service, that the default by the courts would be that the proof is on the government for them to take extra steps before they can start charging for services that they have record of providing. Nobody's telling us that.
We got an attorney on their way.
Okay, but nobody's telling us that. But the department, for some reason, chose to acknowledge the fact that the council gave them a directive. They acknowledged that 77,000 containers are being provided service, extra containers are being provided service to our constituents. They've sent letters to those identified people that we're providing that extra service for. Yet at the same time, the department's deciding that it's going to take extra amounts of time or extra amounts of notice than constructive proper notice before they start collecting. one of the directives of the council was notify and start collecting. Why is the department choosing to notify twice without giving any legal argument as to why they need to do it that way?
The best answer that I can provide is if you take a look at the percentage of residents that are disputing the charges, we have over 60% of the residents that we send the letters, that we have received those letters, are disputing the charges. And those take an additional time for the department to review that dispute and to make the determination whether those residents should be charged or not.
Yeah, but the thing is, then you got to tell me this once and for all. Are we doubting that those 77,000 containers are being serviced?
No, we're not.
If we don't doubt that those 77,000 containers are being serviced, and we're confident of that, then why are we leaving the burden of proof on ourselves to prove that if we're confident that we're providing that service? As it is, it sounds like 77,000 containers went uncollected for the fees for months or even years, and yet we're being gingerly about charging them appropriately. I think that once you charge them, what you're going to get is you're going to get a true, accurate measure as to who's being serviced or not, and then I think you're going to get a different thing saying, okay, you charged me my $5 last month, I don't want to pay it, so come pick up your trash can.
I understand your point. The issue with the permanent extra capacity charge is that once the extra capacity charge is implemented, the resident is committed, according to ordinance, to have it for 6 months.
Okay?
They're what?
They are, by ordinance, the charge needs to stay in the residence bill for 6 months.
We're going to run out of time. We have 2 more items. And with my colleagues, just referring to them to the CAO recommendations, number 2 tells the department to begin charging residents of unregistered extra capacity containers with fees currently authorized under the Muni Code, and if the residents don't respond to the notices and don't return the bins within the specified period, we could just go ahead. We're waiting for Keith Prisker to get here, but it's almost 10 o'clock. We could go ahead and adopt the recommendations as set forth in the staff report, and I think it may touch on almost everything that people have raised on the committee.
Well, I'm not, the council ordained in February 1996 for the department to collect. The department picked and chose who they wanted to collect from, so there's some people currently being charged and others who are getting a pass. The council then again, just a couple of months ago, ordered them to collect the fee. They're still not collecting the fee, so all of a sudden, because the CLA tells them to, they're going to. They've ignored the council and the mayor twice, and now we're getting this, we get a letter that says you owe money, basically, and we are entitled to collect it, and now they want to send another letter to tell them the same exact thing. It doesn't make any sense. Just collect the money.
The reason that we have 60% of dispute.
You have 60% of 9% dispute.
Exactly.
Yes.
You have 90% compliance. Just collect it.
Well, we believe that 90% are ignoring the letter.
No kidding.
That would be a first. But so what? They're going to ignore the second letter.
So I think
But
you're allowed
my
to clear
point
from the
is,
ca-
once
from
you
the
start
council. I
collecting,
think
then
we
you're
can
going to get
start
less.
doing
Doesn't
this.
ignore it anymore.
There's less ambiguity, and then you're going to get a black and white answer from
So
someone.
why don't we hold
Come
the
pick
ones
up
that
your
are
bin.
under dispute, but I think you're hearing loud and clear from the council. Let's start collecting on the others.
Okay.
I think that's something that we can do. We know that will result, in fairness, I know in 1996, it wasn't just that you ignored the council, there was also council direction that after that date told you not necessarily to collect from some folks. That's what we're trying to clean up. Is some
There
some
wasn't council direction.
there were some.
There was
Trust me. There
one
were some.
council member.
Oh yes, right. That's council direction.
Not council.
Right. But that's council direction nevertheless. And we are cleaning that up right now and trying to make that fair for everybody. So let's go ahead with, as the chair said, let's go ahead and start that collection
Yes,
on the remaining ones, if we
No
can.
more delays.
Okay,
Keith
thank you.
Keith Pritzker is here if anybody
appreciate
has
the-
questions.
Yeah, I do.
Appreciate the work that you put in with the call center.
Thank you.
Good morning. Keith
yeah.
Pritzker, Deputy City Attorney.
Yes, I have a question for you.
Yes.
Now, when it comes to these extra bins, let's call them that for this discussion, where the Bureau of Sanitation Department has the right to charge another $5 or $2.50, depending on which kind of bin it is. The department has acknowledged that 77,000 bins, extra bins, are being serviced to date. And they've sent letters out to everybody that they feel are getting this extra service that haven't been charged that extra fee in their billing. The department already sent them a letter. They have about a 9% response rate, and the breakdown of responses is, okay, I'll pay the extra, or some people are saying, come pick up your bin, or what have you. But my point is this: is there anything that precludes the city of Los Angeles, if we feel confident that there's X thousands of extra bins being serviced, is there anything that precludes us / the department from starting to collect on those addresses where we feel that we're servicing them and entitled to that $5 and $2.50 respectively?
Anything to stop us from start collecting those fees?
Correct.
No, not legally, because we're providing a service, and we haven't been collecting for that service.
But there's nothing that precludes us, like, for example, maybe the ACLU sued some city one time, and the precedent, the burden of proof is on the city, and this laborious process before they can start charging. It's kind of like a easement by a sheet or something like that.
Yeah,
You follow what I'm saying?
I understand what you're saying, and I don't believe that there's any limitation on when we begin assessing, charging people for that fee.
Okay, so the bottom line is, on a legal vantage point, as long as we feel our records are straight, we can start collecting,
Yes.
all right?
Okay.
Okay,
Yes.
but see, that's what I hear Councilmember Alarcon telling the department. How soon can you start collecting on the ones that haven't been disputed, which is the vast majority?
The question is, why are you delaying? And should
No,
we
but-
not-
but
should we-
in all
should we
fairness,
conduct a full-blown audit,
if
ask the
700
owner to go look for your can?
But in fairness, aside from, say, that 700 or 900 or what have you that have said, either I don't have a trash can or I'm telling you, come pick it up before you've charged me, right? Because they're not in that 6-month period yet. Aside from those, the 90-some% of that 77,000, what's keeping the department from charging? And secondly, how soon can the department implement that on those addresses?
We will have to meet with DWP
Okay?
and have DWP start the process of charging those residents.
Now, that does not take council action. That's an internal
That's an-
department
Why are you
action.
stalling? I can't figure this out. Why are you guys stalling? Why do you have to meet with just send a letter telling them who to charge? You already do that with the other customers that you do charge. Is that not correct?
Yes.
So why do you have to meet with them? Just send them a list of the new people.
Well, when I meant meeting with them was just to give them the list
Okay.
of the.
All right.
So how long does it take for you to send the list over to DWP?
It would probably be about a week because we want to analyze the 2,000 or 3,000 that we still have on the
Okay.
backlog.
We've already, which 2,000 or 3,000?
We have 2,000 or 3,000 that are still, we have in the backlog that are being
They
analyzed
called us,
as
but we
far as
haven't
the
been able to correspond back.
data. Exactly.
We exclude those.
Send those on a separate list. Bill them later.
Okay.
You know, a 2-week lag or something, right?
Okay.
Is that what you're saying? So the 90-some% of the 77,000, what the council is reminding you, we're not even instructing you, because it doesn't take council instruction for you to communicate with DWP and start charging those 70-ish thousand customers,
Okay.
okay?
Thank you.
Now, if there's something you want to warn us about,
I believe that a lot of the comments that we're getting from the residents on the call center have to do with a potential swerve fee increase, and that that would impact the extra capacity, the payment of the extra capacity,
Okay.
and the higher return of that.
okay, now obviously, we're going to have to deal with that regardless.
The other item that I would like to warn you is that a lot of the residents that are asking to have us take back their black container are also asking for a free blue container, and that would potentially increase the contamination in the blue container and reduce the revenue that we receive from that program.
Got it.
On number 3 on the recommendation.
That's only like 4%?
Yeah, let me just finish this comment. We had asked you to come back in 90 days. I think given all the questions that have arisen today, we need to have you come back in 30 days,
Okay?
okay? To make
But
sure that they're
But
you're
coming back in 30
compliance.
days has nothing to do with
Well, just
your
I want to
involvement
make
with
sure that
DWP.
they sent the letter, they didn't send a second one.
Absolutely.
They're charging people. I don't want to wait 90 days to find out that we're in the same conversation that we had today. I don't want to have this conversation again. I want to make sure they're just doing it. And we should be able to know that in 30 days.
Basically, your instructions is to start billing those residents that are still have their
That's
container.
instruction number 1. And instruction number 2, in 30 days, give us another report on the progress and
Okay.
the headaches and all that stuff.
All right, so that'll be the order?
Yep.
Okay, now we got to go on to item number 5.
Item number 5 is a BOE report on lead silver requirements for city projects and buildings. We have staff from BOE. Just to clarify, number 4, we're approving the CAO, CLA recommendation with the modifications.
With
Okay.
a revision on the 30 days.
Okay.
Okay,
Good morning.
if you could make this kind of quick.
I'll make it
Gotta
very
get
quick.
down to council.
I understand. Deborah Weintraub, Chief Deputy City Engineer, Bureau of Engineering. You have in front of you a report that was revised following our presentation to the Information Technology and General Services Committee. The recommendation is for council to change the threshold for city-funded projects to LEED Silver for 7,500 square feet. There are other recommendations that basically focus on coordinating so we can capture as a city all the projects that are going
Now,
on.
I have 2 questions because they are kind of unique to my area, and maybe Mr. Garcetti's is the adaptive reuse buildings on buildings that are designated as historic. How does this apply to those situations?
The way it's written right now would apply to all city-funded projects, 7,500 square feet, but we have a recommendation that we added that we develop a way to exclude projects, and that would report back to council in 90 days. So those would be part of the discussion on which projects should get excluded.
Okay, do we want to hold on to this until you get done with your exclusive language or exclusionary language, so they come in together?
We can do that.
Yeah, I'd rather have them,
I have a
if
question.
that's okay with you.
Yeah,
have them
that's
come
fine.
together.
I have
Is that- Yeah, just to remember, adaptive reuse, historic designation.
Yeah.
And, what that means. Mr. Cardenas.
Now, the 7,500 square foot or larger, when it comes to city facilities, does anybody know the nexus of how we arrived at 7,500 square feet instead of 10,000 or 15,000 or 5,000?
Yes.
What was the nexus?
Well, originally, when the council passed the ordinance for LEED certified, we looked at the Bureau of Engineering's building program, and we had projects that ranged from like 3,000 square feet to 15,000 square feet. And so we looked at projects that it would capture the majority of the work we were doing at a level that we felt was doable, and that's how the 7,500 square feet was arrived at.
Okay. Now, when it comes to cost factor, obviously the smaller the building, the higher percentage the cost factor increase could be. Does anybody have any analysis on that,
Yeah,
according to building size?
in our report, we show that based on our experience, we think that going to silver would be about a 6% increase, and that's hard and soft costs. For certified, we figure in our experience, it's been about a 4% increase. Now, this isn't consistent, and we have a spreadsheet attached to the report, and you'll see some are much lower. But that's on average what it's been for the city projects. 4% for certified, 6% for silver is what we project.
How long would it take for you to come back with the language regarding the adaptive reuse in the historic buildings?
Well, there are a couple of other city departments I'd like to consult with on this, and
Okay.
general services. So, we had said 90 days, but if you want it sooner, we're happy to do it.
I think 90 days is fine, if that's okay with you. It's fine with
That's
me.
fine with me.
Mr. Garcetti had to go start the council meeting, but he did want to say, are you Zora?
Yes.
Okay, to Zora and to Deborah, that you did a great job on the report. And he also had one other recommendation, which you can include when you come back in 90 days, which is to ask GSD and DWP to track energy savings and to ask BOE to track other environmental benefits of the buildings, water saved, waste diverted, things like that. That comes from Mr. Garcetti, but he did want me to pass that on to you.
No problem. Thank
Okay?
you.
So we'll have this come back, any other questions? Have this come back in 90 days?
Great. Thank you very much.
Okay, number 6.
Yeah, continue. Item number 6, the CO report relative to the issuance of general obligation bonds for Prop O stormwater projects. We have staff from CAO's office.
Morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. I'm here with Mark Talai of the CAO. My name is Arnell Aguilar. The CAO requests authority to issue up to $110 million in general obligation bonds to be used for Prop O stormwater projects. The CAO plans to accept bids for these bonds on August 6th rather than July 29th as referenced in the report recommendations. This is to obtain the lowest true interest costs on behalf of the city and upon approval of this item. The department and I are available to answer any questions you may have.
Just one quick question. When do you anticipate requesting the next bond sale after this one is completed?
This is Mark Tulai, the CAO's office. I believe it'll be at least another year before we do.
Sometime in
August of,
Okay.
2000.
Natalie, I think, why don't you?
Natalie Brill, CAO. We can only issue GO bonds up till the end of July. So if the department wants to issue again, it'll be next July.
Okay.
Because it has to get on the tax roll.
Right.
So we usually issue between March and July. So we could do that every year.
Okay, so everybody's cognizant of that window when they're dealing with this, so.
Correct.
they
Everybody's
report
aware.
that timeframe.
That's why we did not issue last year, because they weren't ready.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
all right.
Other questions? There's only 2 of us left, so.
That's fine.
Anybody, more cards? That's it?
Yeah, no, this is a time period for general public comment.
Just to clarify, we're approving item number 6,
Yeah,
correct, as communication?
With only
Okay.
2 of us now.
That's fine. Yeah.
For those items that are not on the agenda, do we have any public comment cards?
No.
Okay, great, and the meeting is adjourned. Not too bad. Hopefully we didn't hold them up too much.